Welcome to another story. Here we will be exploring an incident on a derelict spaceship. The rumors are said that a human was responsible. The word shakes your very soul. The monsters of the universe have nothing on a human. The creature was captured and experimented on. These are the results that were found. After the conclusion was determined, all of the data was deleted to keep the galaxy from panicking at the true capabilities of the human race. This report is the last surviving evidence. After it was exposed to the gas, it started breathing heavily and laid on the ground for 57 minutes. After redacted was tested, the subject redacted. As a result of this, the test was aborted early. Conclusion: subject is redacted to redacted. Redacted seems to have redacted on subject. Redacted seems to be redacted on the subject. Note: results of this test can lead to more effective means of containing the subject. Director Quex was sitting in his office. Nothing has been disturbing his sight lately, so he enjoyed the moments of peace when his phone buzzed. Captain Sarah bowed. Scouting Team Beta 1 reporting for duty. Better be important, Captain. You shouldn't be calling me without a reason. It is. On our last scouting mission, we found a creature on the smuggler ship. Their entire group was wiped out. Was the only thing left alive on that ship. We're requesting a high-security containment cell for it. The alien was the only thing left on the ship that was alive. We're requesting a high-security containment cell for it. Quax pulled up the report for the mission. The creature had a pale, squishy-looking skin, mostly without fur, and had a predatory gaze. It looked like it would do harm, but nowhere near as dangerous as the things locked inside a high-security cell. According to the report, the scouting team came to the ship when the creature was mostly subdued, so even they couldn't have had any idea how strong it was. Smugglers were probably a bunch of amateurs that couldn't secure it properly. Wasn't a good idea to ignore a suggestion from men in the field, but they did like to waste the resources of SACG. Right now, the best I could do is a medium security cell. We can decrease the measures later if needed. Give the case to researcher, data expunged. We'll figure out how to effectively contain it. Will do, Director. With that, the call ended. It wasn't every day that we get a completely unknown entities on our site, but something like that shouldn't disrupt the peace that we had on this site for some time now. Researcher, data expunged his log. Subject 2547 is to be kept in medium security containment cell with dimensions of 5 by 5 by 5 meters, with a standard air ventilation system. Air ventilation system with 2 entrances of a lower height than the subject's head at its narrowest point. As of right now, the dimensions are 50 by 10 centimeters. Subject is to be fed blend of vitamins and amino acids as per standard protocol. Further testing will be necessary to determine more suitable food for the subject. Note: it crawled through the vents. I got a call from ECUA, Emergency Containment Unit Lambda, that the subject escaped through the ventilation and that they're currently working on re-establishing containment. Captain Cargi came up with a plan to reroute the ventilation system so that it loops back into subject's cell while the cell itself was redecorated to look different to trick the subject. Once back in its cell, the subject was ambushed by ECUA, and non-Delta weaponry was deployed to subdue the subject. While the operation was effective, multiple agents were injured during the fight. Subject was assigned a temporary cell without air ventilation, while its own cell is being repaired and changed according to the new containment protocol. While in this cell, the remaining agents of ECUA will help with keeping it contained. Data expunged. Subjects remain research. 9.1. Subject is to be fed a mix of meat, fruit, and vegetables, since the standard Kakix food seems to be non-toxic to the subject. Subject needs to be escorted to testing area by at least 4 ECUA agents with non-lethal electric weaponry. We had another containment breach. During transport to the testing area, the subject managed to knock out the security guard while he was looking away. It stole his keys to break free of its restraints. The remaining units of ECU-A were deployed to resort containment. This attempt turned out to be unsuccessful. It resulted in 10 casualties, while the rest of the unit got severely injured. Captain Redacted noted that standard electroshock weapons don't seem to be as effective to the subject as they are to the rest of the anomalies. Site Director requested assistance from SACG's council, and the council sent QRU Quick Response Unit Gamma from the closest dispatch point, and the site was put in lockdown mode. During its time on the loose, there were multiple interesting actions observed through the security cameras. First, it stopped to observe the planet Redacted from the cafeteria window. This could suggest that it comprehends that we're in space. Second, it seemed to be particularly interested in Site Doctor's office. After the QRU arrival of containment was reestablished. During the encounter, QRU agents were injured. As a result of this incident, the subject was moved to a high-security containment cell. ECU-A's numbers had to recruit new members to make up for the current combatant shortage. Data expunged. Subject's main research. 12.1. Redacted. Subject 2547 is to be kept in a medium-high security containment cell with dimensions. During testing, standard safety protocols should be in place. The subject needs to be restrained unless the experiment requires otherwise. In such case, the experiment should be supervised by at least 2 ECU-A agents. Test 2547, 12.1. Mirror test. Research. Data expunged. Execution. Subject's face was marked with a black dot, and then the subject was placed in front of a mirror. Result. The subject wiped the dot off as soon as it was marked with it. Conclusion. Inconclusive. Adjustment 8. The subject has been restrained while the dot was being applied. Result. The subject wiped the dot off right after its hands were freed. Conclusion. Inconclusive. Adjustment 9. The black dot was applied while the subject was asleep. Then it was placed in front of the mirror. Result. Subject wasn't interested in the dot. Instead, it hit the mirror with its upper manipulators, breaking it to pieces. Then it started dissecting the light in the room, causing an outage in the testing area. 2 ECU-A agents were sent to retrieve the subject. In the dark, the subject killed them with a mirror shard, breaking containment. After containment has been re-established, the dot on subject's face was gone. Conclusions? The subject is either not self-aware or is actively trying to hide it. Incident 2547, 12.1 report. 1507. Subject 2547, further referred to as subject, has breached containment, and ECU-A immediately went to the testing area where the breach occurred. 1510. Subject has entered the ventilation system from the hallway. The sounds emitted from the ventilation suggested headed to the office area, so it was preemptively evacuated. 1530. The evacuation is complete. 1550. The subject was found near the escape pods. 1620. As the subject had restrained lower appendages and was bleeding from cutting itself with the mirror shards, we managed to re-establish containment without casualties, and the subject was escorted back to its cell. Damage to the team. The team managed to re-establish containment without substantial injuries to any other member of the team. Note. It seems the situation with this thing is starting to get under control. Captain Redacted, ECU-A 27.2. Redacted Subject 2547 is to be kept in the medium-high security containment cell. Subject needs to be escorted to the testing area by at least 4 ECU agents with non-lethal electrical weapons. During the escort, the subject needs to be in a depleted state. This is denoted by dark spots under the subject's visors, postular collapse, and involuntary expansions of subject's primary intake orifice. During testing, standard safety protocols should be in place, and the subject needs to be restrained unless the experiment requires otherwise. In such case, the experiment should be supervised by at least 2 ECU agents. Note. Subject tried to escape multiple times, but due to the increased security during transport, all those attempts were unsuccessful. We have noted that when the subject is tired, it rarely tries to escape, and those attempts are extremely weak compared to when it is rested. As a result of this, the containment protocol has been updated according, and security during transport has been slightly lowered so that ECU agents can be available elsewhere. I guess this is it. Now we may begin with proper testing. Data expunged. Subject's main research. Test 2547, 1.3. Type. Redacted. 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 Researcher. Data expunged. Execution. Subject was put into testing area. Redacted. Tested. Redacted. Included methane, argon, carbon dioxide. Redacted. Result. Subject's reaction to methane was almost non-existent. He breathed more heavily, but that seemed to be from lower oxygen concentration in the room. To argon, the reaction was the same as to methane. Subjects reacted to carbon dioxide was the same, even at higher concentration, that could kill most of the galaxy species except for ocean mammals. Most interesting effect on the subject, however, had redacted. After it was exposed to the gas, it started breathing heavily and laid on the ground for 57 minutes. After redacted was tested, the subject redacted. As a result of this, the test was aborted early. Conclusion. Subject is redacted to redacted. Redacted seems to have redacted on subject. Redacted seems to be redacted on the subject. Note. Results of this test can lead to more effective means of containing the subject. This document has been forwarded to Site Redacted Laboratory. Further testing will be necessary to determine full extent of subjects redacted. The subject's reaction to carbon dioxide could mean that it's semi-aquatic or has evolved from ocean-based mammals. Note by the Ethics Commission. Further testing of similar manner on subject 2547 has been delayed until redacted has been ruled out. Addendum 6.3. Further testing of redacted has been banned by the Ethics Commission indefinitely due to results of test 2247 5.3. Test 2547 5.3. Type. Problem solving. Research. Volvec. Execution. Subject was left in an empty room with an easy puzzle, P1. A medium puzzle, P2, and a hard puzzle, P3. Puzzles were designed as fitting pieces into a square holder as these were deemed easiest to comprehend the meaning of. Estimated PCM problem-solving metric required for these puzzles are 80 for P1, 100 for P2, and 120 for P3. Result. Subject solved P1 in 3:14, including the time it took the subject to understand what it was supposed to do. On P2, the subject understood what it's supposed to do immediately, thus completing the puzzle in 4. On P3, the subject worked on the puzzle for 141, then let out a groan, threw the pieces on the floor. It then spent the next 18 building some kind of contraption with it. After that, it lay on the ground doing nothing for 1 hour, 5 minutes, and 45 seconds. Following that, it returned to the puzzle and solved it in 2 minutes. Conclusion. Subject's problem-solving skills are estimated to be above average when compared to the population of redacted, and on the higher end throughout the galaxy. Note. Subject will have a microphone installed in their cell to prioritize an analysis of speech patterns. Note. As a result of Test 2547 5.3, the Ethics Commission might start to poke around my research more. It is a shame we didn't manage to establish proper containment methods before the Ethics Committee took notice. Data expunged. Subject's main researcher. Test 2547 6.3. Type. Pain tolerance. Researcher. Data expunged. Execution. Data redacted on a request from the Ethics Commission. Result. Data redacted on a request from the Ethics Commission. Conclusion. Subject has an abnormally high tolerance to pain and is capable of staying awake even with redacted. Note. As a reaction to Test 2547 6.3, researcher, data expunged, has been excommunicated and her name has been expunged from all SACG's documents. Lead of the research regarding Subject 2547 has been given to researcher Volvec. SACG is supposed to be cold, not cruel. Let this be an example for the rest of the researchers. Redacted. Ethics Committee. Note. After Test 2547 6.3, the subject started to create measures to address the injuries and suffered during the test. This suggests that the subject is somewhat aware of its own physiology. Regular health checks will be put into place to determine subject's well-being as well as to challenge this hypothesis. Volvec. Subject's main researcher. Note. Regular health checks revealed that the subject is almost completely healed after Test 2547 6.3 by 12.7. Redacted, which is high recovery rate for the extent of injuries it suffered during the test. This also means that we may start testing on it again. Volvec. Subject's main researcher. 13.7. It is important to note that the only reliable metric for depleted state are the dark spots under the subject's visors. Rest of those marks can be faked by the subject. During testing, standard safety protocols should be in place. The subject needs to be restrained unless the experiment requires otherwise. In such case, the experiment should be supervised by at least 2 ECUA agents. Incident 2547, 13.7 report, 1334. Subject 2547, further referred to as subject, breached containment during transportation to testing area. During transportation, it was accompanied by 2 ECUA agents. Both of them were incapacitated, one of which suffered heavy injuries, causing a breach are currently undergoing investigations. See investigation 2547, 13.71 report. 1343. ECUA reached subject near site director's office and attempted to re-establish containment using experimental gas grenades developed by site redacted laboratory. Instead of incapacitating the subject, the subject seemed more energetic after being exposed to redacted. Cause of this is currently undergoing investigation. See investigation 2547 13.72 report. 1403. ECUA managed to re-establish containment. Damage to the team. 24 agents suffered heavy injuries. Subject managed to damage biochemical suits of 7 agents, and as a result of that, they all died from redacted poisoning. Aftermath. Area where the gas grenades were used had to be sealed, and specialized team had to be called to decontaminate it. Note 4. Don't use redacted grenades. Note 5. During encounter, the subject reacted to ECUA's strategy preemptively. This could mean that the fucker learned some basic understanding of our language during this time spent on site redacted. Note 6. ECUA is currently short-staffed and will need reinforcements to ensure subject's containment. Note 7. Subject was much more resilient to electroshock weapons than in previous breaches. Captain Redacted, ECUA, Investigation 2547 13.71 report. As shown by the security footage, subject shown 2 out of 3 depleted state signs, namely postural collapse and involuntary expansions of the subject's primary intake orifice. However, these signs suddenly stopped and the subject overwhelmed the agents accompanying it. Conclusion. Subject can fake postular collapse and involuntary expansion of the subject's primary intake orifice. This has been noted in the protocol that will further be regulated as an unreliable. Volvec subject's main researcher. Investigation 2547 13.72 report. After re-establishing containment, subject's blood sample was taken and did not contain similar amounts of redacted as in test 2547 1.3. After reviewing security footage, it was discovered that subject didn't try to get out of redacted gas cloud until it was confronted by ECUA agents, suggesting that subject can develop tolerance to redacted and that it may be addictive to it. This hypothesis is also supported by the energy surge the subject got from redacted. Volvic. Subject's main researcher. 14.7. Redacted. Subject 2547 is currently uncontained. Once containment gets re-established, the following protocol is to be followed to prevent further breaches. Subject 2547 is to be contained on a specialized site where these conditions must be met throughout the entire site. Ventilation system needs to be designed in a way to prevent the subject crawling through it. Current proposal suggests installing thick bars in each intersection. The site needs to be devoid of weapons the subject could use, as well as materials that would allow the subject to create its own weapons. Such materials include, but are not limited to, glass, wood, scraps of iron, or anything that is long and light enough for the subject to carry. The site also has to have doors in the hallway that will automatically close once the sites go into lockdown, and the lockdown override can only be done by multiple crypt keys distributed among multiple staff members. The site should also have a dedicated team specialized with the subject. Subject 2547 is to be kept in a small medium security containment cell. It is important to note that the only reliable metric for depleted state are the dark spots under the subject's visors. Rest of those marks can be faked by the subject. During testing, standard safety protocols should be in place for the subject needs to be restrained unless the experiment requires otherwise. In such case, the experiment should be supervised by at least 2 ECUA and 2 ECUA 2547 specialized agents. Incident 2547 14.7 report. 1113. Subject 2547, further referred to as Subject, was exhibiting all signs of depleted state and was deemed ready to be transported to the testing area. 1116. Subject broke containment during transportation to the testing area. In doing so, it inflicted heavy injuries on the two ECUA agents escorting it. 1148. Subject was confronted by returning ECUA agents, but due to lack of agents' presence on site, the attempt to re-establishing containment was unsuccessful. 1152. Site redacted. Went in lockdown and distress signal was sent to SACG Council. 1230. Subject used the ventilation system to crawl to Site Director office, where it took the director hostage using a glass shard. The use of lethal weapons was authorized by the emergency protocol. ECUA agents currently recovering in the infirmary who were able to operate were called to action. 1247. Station lockdown was disabled, and Subject dragged the director to the escape pod area using him as Caxic shield. 1315. A single escape pod was ejected from station on board with Subject and Site Director. Note: how was Subject able to fake dark spots under its eyes is currently undergoing investigation. See Investigation 2547-14-7 report. Captain Redacted, ECUA, Investigation 2547-14.7 report. Based on security footage from Subject's cell, the subject scratched a healing wound from previous breach until it started bleeding from it again. Then it used its own blood to paint under its visors, creating the impression of depleted state. Volvic, Subject, Main Researcher. SACG's council statement. As a result of Quex's incompliance, he has been removed as the director of Site Redacted and will be assumed dead. If he's found alive, he is to be executed for his role in Subject 2547's escape. QRU will be sent to help with the recovery of Subject 2547 on the planet Redacted. In case Subject 2547 gets exposed to the public, it should be immediately forwarded to the Concealment Division. I'm so glad you were able to make it to the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. You could be the one that sends the channel to the moon. Don't miss the next grand adventure. As always, tune in next time. Have a good one.